is at the simplicity of watercolor. It's simple. And they have a tendency to make mud quickly because they're too fast with the idea of the color. It's not like acrylic or oil. You can't get away with just lumping a color on a color because the watercolor is at base very transparent and they mix very quickly. And if they mix incorrectly, you have a problem. So what you want to do is what I do is I keep my palette relatively simple and I change it as I go along, but each section is like no more than 3 colors. Now, in watercolor, at this particular stage, we're going to do a straight watercolor. So the paper is very important. You don't want the paper to die. You want the paper to feed the light of your color. So you want to pay attention, and you'll see this as I'm working. You pay attention to the loading of the brush because the amount of water will decrease the strength of the pigment. So for example, if you take a test sheet and you pick up a red with a loaded brush and you run that across the test sheet, you'll see a pinkish tone, and as the brush gets drier, it becomes red. So your understanding should be, well, if I want to get the stronger red, I have to squeeze the excess water out of my brush. And most of you don't. You put water in your brush, you do this, you put it back in the water, and you do too much water. And with some colors it dies on you, other colors it's faint, it's not too bad. Now this is gum arabic, and I use it in my water. It helps clean the brushes, and for some reason they say that it's good for the color. So I use it. We'll find out. Supposed to make it stronger as it dries. Because if you notice, a lot of watercolor gets very kind of dirty and danky looking as it dries. So you have to figure out what the hell's the cause of that. And sometimes it's the pigment, sometimes it's you. You're just overloading the brush, or you're not using enough water, or too much. So it's that balance. But nothing improbable. Everything is possible. There we go. Somebody gave me that, and they thought I'd use it for storage. I use it for watercolor. Okay, here we go. So what I'll do is I'll look for a spot that I can plane some action to create a movement so that we can have a strong relationship to the negative space as we're working. And we'll see what happens. If it's bad, we just turn it over and do the back. Now I reduce things to simple shapes because as an abstractionist, the complication is in the relationship of movement of color and all of that. So I keep my palette pretty simple, and I do it in stages. You'll see. If I'm real lucky, it'll turn out to be an interesting piece. So I'm doing that right on the golden section there. Very nice. Of course, most of you guys who know me know I hate runs, but there's nothing I can do. Yeah. Now I can thin this out as I want to, pick it up as I want to, but that's the idea of a neutral warm color. You know what that means. Now, here is a separation that's already creating a kind of action. Oh, these are techniques that a lot of people don't tell you, and every watercolorist uses them. And you have to use the scraping very quickly because you want to knock down some of the color. and let some of the other color come up right away so that the paper isn't going to get hurt as you develop it. Now we're going to do the hard part. We have to look at it. That's difficult. Here we go. Okay, I take a little of that, a little of this. So I use those stems as gestures. They organize, they action, they hook things up. They're used to temper color. They're really, most people, you guys avoid them, but I find them exciting and develop a more interesting surface. If you do them correctly, of course. That's the other part. Okay, here we go. Now, so I took the stems from the upper part, put it in the lower part. Now I have a relationship of this area to that, and I can start building another tone. And with any luck at all, it'll work. We don't know. So what I'm going to do, here we go with the taps. Now this is a rhythmic abstraction where I'm working an energy of stroke in juxtaposition so they're not just horizontal verticals. One of the things I found a lot of you guys do, you have a tendency to do this a lot, and when you do that, you frame your work and it doesn't, you have enough tension. When you jerk a piece in a little angle, you get more tension. Like if I was going to paint her and her, I would throw her at an angle, throw her at an angle, and play with the negative space. I would get much more excitement in the page, hopefully. Now let's try to do this simply. So I start inventing. Now I will do a little more opaque color in areas as we come up, because you want it to dry to see if you actually have to. If you don't have to, you don't do it. But if you do, you have enough room and enough paper in which to give it that second or third stroke. See? So I'm very careful. There we go. That goes under. Push it through. Everything about color is light. So if I'm getting light, I'm okay. If I'm not getting light, I'm in trouble. And that's when you flip it over. Now, I'm going to mess this color up a little bit. Move it around. This is pretty dry, so I can kick it up just a little bit in here. A little bit over here. So you can see it starting to give a quiet relationship. That's every artist has their own relationship. Some are stronger, more dramatic, others are quiet. Depends on your attitude when you're painting, what happened that day, you know, how many people you're trying to get rid of. You know. Like I had a student once and she was painting up a storm. And I said, "You seem very angry." She said, I got a lot of people dropping in. Okay, now we're going to try something harsh just to see what happens. That's a Indian red. It's an interesting color, but you got to be careful with it because it will bleed into everything if you're not careful. So you got to be real careful with it when you use it. We'll use it more dominantly on the other one. Okay, now let me run this here. There we go. Okay, very good. Well, I've been lucky so far. Oh, that frickin' drip, man. I always keep my bottoms much softer, my tops a little stronger, because if you notice, your eyes go to the top if you make them. They'll come down because they're lazy. They just come down. So you have to worry about that. They'll always come down. And then, so you don't have to fight, you know. Now, I'm going to kick up a little yellow at the top here, right in there and here. Just overlap it just a little bit. So I'm constantly going under and on top as I work my colors so that I get movement. If I don't get that movement, I'm in trouble because the painting will become very boring real quick. And that annoys me, yeah. So I don't have to work too many complications. The color seems to do its job. It tends to take most of the attention and makes the painting quietly interesting. Like I tell you guys, to me, because I'm an oil painter, watercolor for an oil painter is a tone, is a tint, is the beginning, the affection of an idea. It's not complete. It doesn't complete till you transfer. So you take what you learned from that and put it into oil. Then you start manipulating and muscling it and creating something. But it's good. I try to get all you guys to do watercolor because it makes you use oil better. You don't hit it with too much strength too quick. You softly play with it. Get more action. So there's a purpose. Okay, now. Let me get this thing out. I got to do this, unfortunately. Now this is making the color a hell of a lot more opaque. We'll see the action.
Is that the same red?
It has. I always put red in the orange. It'll dry a little between, but it works. As long as it works, I don't care. Okay, so far so good. It's not really too bad. And I can knock it down pretty quickly. So I'm doing it in stages. I'm not doing it all at once. And that gives me more control. If I don't like it, I can take it out. Scraper, scraper. So you see the effect. Everything about watercolor is about the tint to the color, the expansion from transparency, semi-transparency to opaque. And as you transfer that around, you control it. As you control it, you control the whole surface, which is your point. Now, I'm going to do something really stupid. See how that works. Okay. I throw this under, that's on top, I create this. This whole concept of getting away from background, middle ground, foreground comes from Cezanne. He compressed it. And when he did that, what he did is he moved the volumes around into different positions so that they didn't all sit on the same place. Now in watercolor, I don't go, we'll do that next month. But normally I don't use a gouache. I just use the paper, in a straight watercolor. And I do these in about, you've watched me do them, I do them about a minute and a half. Bing, 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 and that's it. This one I'm going to do from one of my drawings, just to show you memory painting. Really simple stuff. Okay, now let me knock this way out. Bring some of the watercolor inside the painting. Take a look. See? That's very important because this starts to echo in here and lifts it, makes it more a part of the idea rather than just a color on the surface. The other thing I have to do is tint the paper. In other words, take the bleachy white out of it. Well, it's starting to look like something, I'll be damned. Now, abstraction, you got huge advantages because you're not making a specific scene. You're taking something from a scene as you've seen it and using the color that kind of resonates your feeling at the moment. Anybody tells you that there's no feeling in painting is an idiot. Complete moron. Stay away from them. Agree with them and walk away. Because they will hurt you. Okay, this is so far pretty controlled. So we'll let this dry a while we beat up the next one. So we're going to start the next one. What do I got here? Burnt umber. That's So we're going to play with this. Now this is a drawing. I've been doing this watercolor over 30 different canvases, so I can whip them out like monkey juice. You know. Okay, so here I'll take the action. This is the underpainting. This is the undercolor. Which I do differently every time I do it. Well, mainly because I've done 30 paintings and they're all different, but it's the same subject. So I'm pretty sharp, you know. Here we go. Now this is the underpaint. Now on top of this, is going to come blue. And then we'll see what happens, if anything. The beauty you guys have of watching me make a mistake is you make a note and say, I'm not going to do that. Now I'm going to horse around with this a little bit, let it dry a little. Gives you the action of a form, sky, water, whatever. Take the green of the water. Thank you very much. Now the action is different from one to the other because the concept is different. So you never have to worry about that. You just have to know why you're doing it. And that gives you much more pleasure and over the long haul. Any luck at all. Yeah. Okay, and then this area. Now I put no gum arabic on this page. I just used it in the paint on the paper just to see the effect and if it had any. So abstract forms and the energy and the excitement of the piece always comes from some place you've been, something you've seen, something that you felt deeper than the object was relieving itself of. That's why abstraction exists. They couldn't get the power they were feeling out of the objects as they were looking at them, so they changed them, which I find interesting. As long as you have light, you got a painting. Okay, here we go. Now I started using pressure blue and watercolor years ago because at the time, ultramarine blue was fugitive. Now it's not, so they say. But I've just gotten so used to using it, I just keep using it. Ultramarine blue is okay, but I like it better in oil, you know. Okay, here we go. Add some gum arabic. Let's see what happens. As you get closer to the idea as I saw it. I don't buy black in watercolor because it's never strong enough, but I make black.
How do you make black?
You can make it by mixing different colors together, like alizarin, green and red. You get a Payne's gray kind of thing. You add a little more blue to it. Or you take raw sienna, burnt sienna, add a little bit of Prussian blue to it, you get black. You can get different tones of black. And they're much better than what you get out of it too, because if you notice, you take the blue out of watercolor, it's gray. Which annoys you if that's not what you want. This is Prussian blue and Indian red. I'm covering the Indian red with the blue, and you're seeing what's happening. Interesting, isn't it?
Very interesting.
And it's not dead. See, it didn't die. Son of a gun. We're gonna play with it a little bit too, on top of everything else. I mean, what the hey? Now these tend to be more exciting colors to a lot of people, mainly because the contrast is stronger and it's not as much work. Here the red is becoming the white is becoming very, very strong here because there's nothing under it. So you get more of the blue, you do that up here. Let that blue drift through here. There we go. So you have two different basic ideas, but basically all of them are running from the right to the left. And I'm going to make the right side a little bigger than I normally do, just to show the difference in size always makes a huge difference in the action of the painting. It kind of like expands a little bit, and then I'll hook it up as I come down. Break the cliff, break the sky, have a little stone in the water, beepity boppity beep, and there we are. Okay, now let's run it to the right side. I must have done 1,000 of these. Yeah. They all turn out different. They're amazing. Okay, now, take this. Bring a little light into it. Break it up. Okay. Now, we'll try something. It may not work. That's what's going to be interesting. No, there we go. Okay, wise guy. You don't know what's going to happen here. It may kill the whole painting. That's kind of interesting. I always kind of like doing this. It's a great lesson. There's a little gum arabic and cerulean blue. Theoretically. I don't know what it is actually. My brush is dirty, so it turned to something. Here we go. Huh? Yeah, but it's mostly gum arabic. It's 2/3 gum arabic and about a touch of water. Okay. But you notice when I remove that white, everything kind of settles. Changes the whole concept of the painting as the contrast gets lower. We'll see what happens here when that blue gets picked up, pushed into here, down through here. And then we just pray a lot, you know. Okay, the temperature and the mood of the painting begins to change immediately. You can feel it. That depends on what your mood is at the time. It's either bad or good. That would be the sky and the water kicking up against this and abstracting it as a plane rather than as an object of reality. And then, whoa, the horse. Now I'm going to give an action here. Take a look. Isn't that interesting? Don't you find that interesting? It's like a real watercolor. Son of a gun. You just never know what's going to happen, see? Now, that's beginning to give me a feeling of what I get in my oil painting. That's kind of interesting. Son of a gun. Now you can see I did this is very simple because all this stuff, watercolor is relatively simple as you apply it. You don't try to work it up and don't try to make it complete. Let it have its moments, you know. Kind of like a good love affair, you know. empty moments. You know. Had a lot of those. Okay. Son of a gun. So playing with watercolor and simplifying your palette is the two most important things. This one's light and daylight. This one is somewhere between night and dawn. Very interesting concept. So you have a variation, you have an expansion of ideas. It's really simple. And this one, if you wanted to do gestures in it, you'd have to invent them, which is okay. I don't care. Invent the damn thing. See what happens?
Yes. Magic.
Turn it into an abstraction of shift and movement, which is more important than anything else. And the action of the watercolor itself, very important. So you got both without any effort at all. I want to plane it up a little again, so I'll plane it up. I got 3 shots. This is my 3rd shot, and this is it. Yeah, it's a Prussian blue. You can see it. I wanted to get more of the blue concept coming up in the piece. So it works. It gives you a sense of the thing as you remember it rather than as you always see it. Because every time you see it differently. Now, I took thousands of photographs like everybody else. I did drawings of all of them. I tore up the photographs. I didn't want to deal with them. I just want to deal with my sketches, because my sketches become closer to what's in here. That's what I'm painting. When you're an abstractionist, you're digging deeper and deeper all the time. Sometimes it's a little scary, you know. Okay, we'll bleed this thing out. Dab it up, dab. I think we did a pretty good job of creating a mess. Not bad. Messes are good. Well, we can use the back next week. Yeah. Okay, let's see what happens. This is what I've been trying to get you guys to do. Keep your ideas simple, get a broad tension between your forms. And if you notice, I didn't crowd any of my volumes in one area. I shifted and moved them. And as they moved away, I made them softer. As I moved them closer, I made them a little deeper. So you can see the action. Meow, as my wife would say, this is for normal people. Wherever the hell they are. Uh-oh. There we go. Thank you very much. Doesn't look too bad. Almost looks like a painting, you know? Drama. A lot of drama. That's my nature basically right there. This is where I try to be every morning on the left side, right side, who I am. Thank you, thank you.